All right, we are live.
Welcome. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's been fun being away, but it's good to be back as well.
I know. What adventures did you go on this past couple weeks?
Well, we were out in Vegas for that adventure. I played in a USGA qualifier event, a 2-man qualifier for a golf thing out in Nebraska at a brand new course, which was awesome.
How did that go? I didn't even hear the results of that.
We were top 10 through like 12 holes out of like 40 teams.
That's really good.
Being a buddy, and it was about a 6.5-hour round of golf, and we had flights to catch. So we were like right on the cusp of, man, if we get another birdie or two, we might stick around. And we bogeyed a par 3, and then just kind of let it go sideways and quit like 4 holes early to go to the airport. So we were there. Danny Woodhead, the NFL player, ex-NFL player, was in front of us. He's been trying to get his golf career going.
Oh, nice.
And it was a brand new course called Landman. It'll probably be a top 100 course, I would imagine, at some point. And it was a treat to play.
That's really cool.
And then I was on a cruise last week. So if I look a little tan, I don't retain sun too well, but did a cruise out of Puerto Rico and settling back into work life this week.
Nice.
Yeah. So
Sounds
thank
like
you.
A good time.
Thank you for holding down the fort while I was off playing. That's important.
Oh, it was good. We had some good interview last week, and yeah, excited for our guest today.
Beautiful. Well, this is what, episode 27?
Episode 27. We're getting up there, closer to that episode 30. We got to do something special for that episode.
I guess we should do the, welcome to episode 27 of Books and Bourbon with Caleb and my pal Matthew. That's crazy. We keep talking about how this is impressive to go this long. I guess last week I missed it. That would have been half a year, 26 weeks, which is...
Oh, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
Notable accomplishment.
It does not seem like it's been that long.
No, well, yeah. Colt says we're getting old. Colt, you have Matthew. I can't pin comments. I don't know if that's all right. I'll let you do it. But Colt, you have one of the best names. That we met you in Vegas. It just sounds like you're an NFL quarterback.
I know.
So I was excited.
Yeah, we are getting old.
I know Bill was excited to meet you as well. So at any rate, what have you been up to, Matthew? How's the weather down in Phoenix? We've got fall beautifully set in here. It's sweatshirt weather and crispy leaves and everything else. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so yesterday was like the perfect day, perfect weather. It was like 75 was the hottest it got. No wind, sun all day, played in the backyard of the kids and everything like that. And then today there's like a random late monsoon.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like 50-mile-an-hour winds outside right now. Dust is everywhere. It's raining at the same time. And so it's a little bit crazy outside. If you hear the dog barking, that's why he's scared to death in his kennel right now. So
that would do it.
But yeah, it took a little bit of a turn for the worse today, but tomorrow we'll be back to normal again. So that's just the way it works here.
Perfect. Well, I'll be down your way end of the month actually, so I'll look you up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just doing a quick Denver trip, look at a little bit of real estate, play a little bit of golf, but just kind of catch up some of the business partners out there.
Nice. That'll be good.
I'll look you up. We'll grab an In-N-Out or something better.
Let's do it.
Cool. Well, people are throwing shade. I know we haven't lived up to the Books and Bourbon name, so Matthew and I came with a double barrel approach today. So what are you drinking today, Matthew?
Today I've got I've had this a couple times now, I think, just the Sazerac rye. It's one of my favorite go-to ones just for a casual drink. I like it a lot. It's good.
Well, in the Sazerac family, I'm going with classic good old Buffalo Trace.
Nice. I almost went with that again, but I think it was last time. So.
You can't for the budget. It's like a $28 bottle, and it is so good. So that's good. And we should bring our
part-timer says we get a reset since we have bourbon this week. So
free to go. We should bring our guest in before we do cheers. I don't know if he's drinking or not, but we should do this. So welcome to the show, Jamison, all the way from Las Vegas.
Thank you. Doing good, guys. How are you?
Wonderful. We had a very good time hearing your story from the big stage in Vegas. That was awesome. So we're excited to kind of pick your brain and kind of share that story with our audience today.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Awesome.
Do you have anything you're drinking today, Jamison?
I got a Tito's and soda water.
Yes.
Nice.
All right. Well, we'll kick things off with a cheers. Welcome to the show. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you, fellas. Cheers.
Now, Jamison, you gave. I didn't expect this. We had 2 speakers shed tears from the stage, which was amazing. I love to see a little bit of emotion. So Avery shed a couple tears, kind of unexpectedly, and then I know you got a little bit emotional as well. So we're excited to kind of hear your story. It was an incredibly powerful story. I think I tried to start hearing it in Miami earlier this year. And just, conversations kept going in different directions and we didn't get to finish it up. So I really enjoyed hearing the story. You put a ton of work into your presentation as well. And that came across really well. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Well, we got a couple segments of the show. I've been out of the loop for a couple weeks here, but we always talk about what we're drinking. We talk about industry news. Restock limits really started hitting hard again last week. When they came out, I think Amazon announced it was supposed to be like 3.5 to 4 months of coverage, and it actually turned out to be like 6. Basically, take your average monthly sales times 6 months, and that was your restock limit. They updated it last Monday, and then again, either Tuesday or Wednesday. It kind of came back to back, as Amazon is prone to do. And I know we got squeezed. We went from being able to have an inventory limit of like close to 10,000, and I think it dropped down to like 5,500, 6,000, something like that. So we got pinched pretty hard to where I could no longer send an FBA. So I don't know if you guys are watching and comment where you're at. I know a lot of people are feeling the pain. We have the ability to do merchant fulfilled, so we just shifted our warehouse over to do merchant fulfilled. It's not my preference. I'd prefer to do FBA, but it is what it is, and so here we are. If you don't have the luxury of doing merchant fulfilled, then you're kind of gonna, probably gonna be 7-8 weeks until early January. Is probably what we're going to be seeing. Those limits should go back away once the warehouse is free up, usually after Christmas. There's a chance Amazon keeps reporting soft earnings. There's a chance that volume is way down. And so they could open it back up pre-Christmas, just based on the demands of the warehouse. But if I was a betting man, I'd put my money on the first or second week of January. Somebody went from 15,000 to 1,500.
Wow. That's pretty big cut.
Well, Almighty Amazon giveth and Almighty Amazon taketh away. And I think we knew it was coming. Doesn't mean it feels any better. Any other industry news, Matthew or Jamison?
No, it's pretty much all I've seen recently. How have restock limits affected you, Jamison?
Since I guess my model's more along like online arbitrage and retail arbitrage, I burn through my inventory a little bit faster than probably a lot of the booksellers do. So the restock limits didn't really affect me too much because they kind of keep them pretty high if you're moving the product pretty quick.
Do you have your Amazon account up there? Don't share your screen or anything, but can you look at your sell-through rate? I'm curious what that figure is on Seller Central.
How do you it's been so long since I've checked that. How do you even do that?
Let me see.
I'm really bad at this side of stuff, of like keeping track of that stuff.
So Amazon keeps changing their pages around too. Let me see if I can.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I've been lost looking at the.
They have updated some stuff recently, haven't they?
Yeah, it's good. They, as part of their API upgrade, I think they updated a lot of things on the backside, which is nice. Okay, that's just aged inventory.
All right, let's see here.
So go to the top left menu, click on inventory and then inventory planning. Okay. And then you see the IPI up in the top left corner. You should be able to click on that. It should break it down.
All right, let's see here.
And then the second one down, you should have an excess inventory percentage, a sell-through, and then a stranded inventory percentage with yellow, green, yellow, red associated with each.
Let's see, where's my sell-through? I've got excess inventory, days in inventory.
Are you selling FBA or are you just doing merchant fulfilled?
All FBA. I don't do merchant fulfilled at all.
So are you clicked on inventory planning, and then you clicked on the IPI?
Yep.
And there's no sell-through number for you?
I see excess units. I see SKUs to be restocked, days in inventory. And then below that, it's just aged inventory summary. Okay.
On the inventory performance index, you see a number between 0 and 1,000. Top left corner of that page.
Oh, here we go. Oh, okay. I mean, my IPI is 421. I don't know if that's even good or not. I don't
fine.
ever
It's
pay
not based
attention.
on
I'm
that.
really
What's your
bad.
FBA sell-through?
Weird. For some reason, I don't see that on here. Or it doesn't. It's not on here.
Okay, see where your
Weird.
inventory performance index is?
Yep.
Click that. It should be clickable.
Oh, okay.
And that'll open up a new tab.
Sell through. Let's see.
I'm going to guess you're close to 2.
Oh no, 1.0.
1.0, interesting. So
Yeah.
I'm at 0.8. I've got a higher IPI. Mine's 496, so just under 500. So it's about 70 points better than yours. If we're looking at credit scores, I feel good. My sell-through is 0.8, which I believe is percentage sales per day. So 0.8 per day, 0.8%.
Gotcha.
Yours is at 1%, which it's 25% higher than 0.8, but it's still not substantially high. And you don't have any issues with restock limits.
I wonder if it's somehow based on category of products being sold in some way, shape, or form.
It seems to be sell-through, but yeah, it's
and they definitely lowered my restock limits, but I don't think I'll even come any. Like I was at I think 40,000 units, and they dropped me down to 25,000. Now I'm at 20,000 is my limit for standard size items, but I never come anywhere near that. So,
well, let's do this real quick. How many units have you sold the last 30 days? Not dollars, but just units.
Units. Let's see. 30 days. Units sold. 2,000.
And what's your restock limit?
20,000.
20,000.
Whoa! So you're getting 10x your last 30 days.
That's a lot.
That is a lot, because I sold 2,100 units the last 30 days.
Oh wow!
And my restock limits are like 3x.
Oh wow!
The plot thickens.
Weird, yeah. Interesting. I've never dug into this, so it's really crazy to see this.
That is really interesting.
Well, right when it came out, we actually kind of reverse engineered. Michael Kreider probably is here watching. I haven't seen him pop up in the comments yet, but we kind of reverse engineered it. Actually had it dialed in, and then of course Amazon probably figured that people honed in on it and changed the game again. So here we are. For those that are doing, we'll just touch on it briefly. If you don't want to do a lot of merchant fulfilled, you can take your really high value FBA and like long tail stuff that's not going to sell very often. So you can take stuff that has an E-score of 1 to 5 or 6 or 10 even. And I wouldn't do it if you're only going to make $1 after fees. It's just not worth it. Make a little shelf somewhere, set it off to the side. It doesn't have to take up a lot of room. You can buy something cheap on IKEA or next door or something. And you want to take just your long tail stuff that you're going to make at least 10 to 20 bucks if it sells. And then it's kind of worth the pain of finding an envelope, going to the post office, dealing with all of that. Pro tip, if you do at least one of them priority mail and the rest media mail, they'll come pick it up for free at your front door. So that's something you can do to avoid the trip to the post office and standing in line. But that's a good way to kind of wet your feet, if you want to call it that, kind of wade into merchant fulfilling. It's not fun, but it's actually not very difficult. And you can list books and get them sold the same day, which is sort of a benefit. So yeah, Colt's throwing his numbers out there as well. A lot of numbers don't necessarily seem to add up, but Amazon doesn't always love booksellers, and so we tend to get the raw end of the deal sometimes.
I love you guys though.
Let's get the love started. This will be good. Matthew, is there another segment, or do we jump right into the story? It's been too long.
Let's just jump right into the story.
All right. Well, cool. Well, those that are here watching, thanks so much. Jamison, let's just start. Like, I know you're in Vegas, but you took a pretty epic road trip. Let's hear about that. I think you hit more thrift stores in more states than probably everybody watching altogether.
Yeah. I do a lot of long-term, I guess, I don't know, big trips where I'll leave and I'll go on the road for 1 to 3 months at a time, and I'll just travel back and forth coast to coast. And right now, I'm at over. I lost count, but I've shopped at over 5,000 retail locations: Targets, Walmarts, thrift stores, Barnes and Noble, GameStops, all that. I've shopped at over 5,000 stores around the country.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I started doing that a few years back. Yeah, this year I did 2 big road trips this year. I did a 48-day trip this year. I hit 15 states, shopped probably 300 stores on that trip, and I go out 3 or 4 times a year, depending on the opportunities and what's out there and what's worth chasing and going after.
That's wild. So without getting too much into your secret sauce, do you know what you're looking for before you hit the road, or do you kind of figure it out as you go?
Some trips, I do have a plan. I do some liquidations where back in when Toys R Us was closing, I made a few connections with people that work for those liquidation companies that still do liquidations to this day, and they'll call me if they get any stores on their radar that are closing. Sometimes it's usually very small chains. Like I've done, like, I don't know if you've heard of Hibbett Sporting Goods. I've done those in the past where it's like a smaller sport good, like they sell like, Nike shoes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's a smaller chain. I've done stuff like that, and sometimes it's a one-off store. It'll be like a one-off mom and pop, game store or video game store or toy store, and I'll plan my road trips based around that. Like they'll, if I get an opportunity like that, they'll send me pictures. They'll give me the retail value of all the inventory they have. They'll give me every category, and then I'll kind of do the math there and kind of get into a rough idea of what profit I can make off that store. Generally, if I can make, $5K off that store, I'll build a road trip around that. And then I'll just freestyle and shop other deals along the way. And that'll be the bread and butter of the trip. And then I'll kind of shop stores on the way back to make it worthwhile to do the road trip. So that's usually what I base my road trips out of, is a closing store somewhere around.
Are you always driving or are you flying?
I have flown. Sometimes I'll drive. It depends on the math. Like last year, I went I went up to around Buffalo, New York last year. I flew from Vegas to Buffalo last year, and I hit one store. And I spent about a week there in Buffalo, New York, at a closing store, and I was able to pull about $20,000 in profit out of that store. So that store, I flew out, rented a U-Haul, I paid for a week's hotel. The flight was like freaking $1,500. Like, it was just crazy expensive trip because it was very last minute. Like, that trip was very profitable. So like for those trips, I'll fly out. But if I can only make anywhere from 3 to 5K on that store, if I can manage it, I'll do a road trip. And as long as I can, do RA along the way to help pad, paying for the trip, I'll do that.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. Are you typically like listing and prepping from the road, or do you just fill the U-Haul to the brim and then drive home and kind of process it when you get back?
I ship everything from the road.
Okay.
I'll get a hotel or Airbnb, and I'll be shipping. I'll be staying at a Holiday Inn sometimes, and I'll bring in, 30, 40 boxes into my room, and the whole room will just have, sometimes 1,000+ items around the room, and I'll ship and I'll box from the room, and I'll be using the little bell cart to bring stuff out and in. And I've stayed at Airbnbs before where people have actually called the cops on me because they thought I was stealing. They thought I was emptying out the Airbnb.
It looks like you're moving in. The neighbors are panicking.
Yeah, I've had the cops called like 3 times now for doing that.
Oh my goodness. Well, Matthew, I know you lived in an RV for a bit. Did you try and source a fair amount from the road, or did you just kind of leave?
We did occasionally, depending on where we were. A lot of the time when we were traveling, we were out in the middle of nowhere, so that was not like prime sourcing locations most of the time. But depending on where we were, we would go out to different places. We did have a toy hauler, and it was capable of having a Gaylord or 2 in the back of it, but I never ended up doing that. You could have like a little processing station back there listing. I did list from the RV quite a few times, but I never had an entire Gaylord of books back there. But I should have done that just to have that picture of the Gaylord of books in the back of an RV traveling around. But so no, I didn't do any bulk style stuff from it, but I did occasionally list from it. But most of my business at the time was all consignment, or at the first part of the trip, it was a scout team when I had like 3 or 4 people in different parts of the country scouting for me. So most of that was just outsourced.
That's fantastic. We did a little bit of sourcing. I took a road trip, actually wrote about it on the blog back in the blog days. Now I don't really blog anymore, but took a road trip out through Kansas, Missouri. I started in Denver. I don't think we hit Arkansas. I think it was mostly just Kansas, Missouri, and I think some Oklahoma. And I remember it was the first time I'd seen a Goodwill bookstore. There was one there. There was a bunch of regulars in the store that were just giving me the stink eye, like who's this new blood in our territory. But that was really fun. It's one of those things like you mentioned, Jamison. You get one good source and it can make your entire week. I think it was a 5-day sourcing trip. Hotels. The end goal was actually a small hole in the wall steak place in it's a college town in Missouri. It's where University of Missouri is. I'm totally blanking. Columbia, Missouri. It's a cool little college town. There's a place called CC's Diner, CICI. It's in a strip mall, and it's one of the best steaks I've ever had. So that was kind of the end goal. Hey, let's go get steak and buy books along the way. Well, that Goodwill bookstore did really well, and then we found a brand new thrift store. I think it was a Goodwill as well, maybe a Salvation Army. It was brand new, and it was like their grand opening, and everything was like, 50 to 75% off or something just for like the first day. We happened to be there. And it was one of those deals where it just felt like a dream. You go through and normally you get, one hit, one accept every 10 to 20 books. It's 5-ish% are accepts. This was one of those where you go through a fresh, set of a 3-foot shelf and just start scanning. And you're like, every third book you're pulling out going, wait a second. And you get to the end of the shelf and push it all back. And there's like this much space that you just pulled out and you throw it in a cart. We had 2 full-size carts completely full of books just from going.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, man, if that's like, I would consider moving middle of nowhere, Missouri, just to get access to that thrift store at any given time.
You probably cleared it out for the next year or so.
No, I'm sure they had plenty of inventory behind it. But it's the road trips are fun. It's a lot of long hours. You're kind of listing from the road, especially with books. You don't want to. I think we might have had the minivan at the time. Might have just had a Subaru, and so you're only limited to carrying a couple hundred books at a time. You've got to, you're driving all day, sourcing all day. You get to the hotel or the Airbnb, and you go, well, gotta just turn some Netflix on and just list, and ship them out and go do it again the next day.
If I remember right, I'm pretty sure it was that blog post that was like one of Avery's main inspirations for doing his original road trip, because he saw that blog post that he said he thought it was profit, not revenue. And so he's like, wow, this guy made 7,000 profit in 1 week or whatever it was on the road. And so he threw his canoe in his car and started his journey.
That's the legend of Canoe Boy. I'm actually going to pull up my tracking spreadsheet real quick and just see what I made on that trip, just to have some numbers. I know I shared the initial ones there.
Jamison, is that one trip to New York your best trip that you've got in memory as far as just profit goes, or are there other trips you've done that have been just as profitable as that one?
I've done a couple better than that. During COVID, with retail arbitrage for me was really slow, and everything was like limited. I was in Jersey at the time, so a lot of the stores were like limiting people, and you'd have to wait 20 minutes to get into the store because they could only let like 8 people in. So I didn't do a lot of retail arbitrage, but thankfully for our side of the business, there were a lot of closed businesses during the COVID time during 2020 and 2021. So I got a really good lead on from one of my liquidators that like 9 stores were closing across like Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, Ohio, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. This I think in 2020, around July 2020, and I did probably like a 2 or 3 week road trip where I was able to hit all 9 of those stores and clear them out. And a lot of these stores were 70 to 90% off retail, and so I was able to clear couple thousands of items per store. So I would stay at each town for 2 to 4 days, so I could shop all 1 day, ship all 2 days, and then get on the next road. I had a U-Haul. I was driving my SUV with a U-Haul, like what do you call it, the little trailers or whatever.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I had that. That was probably my best trip. But a lot of the times it's like when you're buying the inventory, you're getting sometimes 100 or 200 units per SKU, and they're very slow. So like that trip, I probably made I would say 40K, but like it probably took me, it trickled out over like a year or a little over a year, all the inventory, which I'm totally fine with. But that was probably one of my best hauls for liquidated sales.
That's beautiful. Well, I got the metrics real quick. So we sourced 777 books, a little perfect 777. Sold 69% of them, 537. Total list price was about 12,800. Actual sales was, looks like $7,700 of actual sales, and had $560 of buy cost, and actual net profit was $3,600. So 5 days of work, week's worth of work. Of course, you're a lot of driving in there too. It wasn't just sourcing, but $3,600. If you could do that every week, that's $187,000 of net income, which would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
It was fun. It's one of those things, like you mentioned, Jamison. You make your money back in the first couple weeks of sales, and then everything after that's just gravy. And it's kind of the gift that keeps you. Because, one of the cool things is we put the date in our SKU. Do you put anything in your SKU, or you just let whatever happens happen?
It's pretty bad. I just have the UPC where I bought it and my buy cost. That's probably a really lame way to do it, but that's all I do for mine.
I mean, it works. The cool thing is, like, I've got my Seller Central up here, and we just sold a book that we listed back in July of 21, August 22, so a recent lists. April of 22, July of 22. So it's just kind of fun. We'll sell books that are pretty old sometimes, and May 22, so a couple months ago. It's just kind of fun. The work that you did back then continues to just pay you out. That's when you get a decent inventory built out. So, well, Jamison, tell us, one, for those that don't sell anything outside of books, did you get started with books and media, kind of like most people getting into Amazon, or did you jump right into retail arbitrage and some of these alternative categories?
I first started, I started thrifting, like a lot of people. I tried doing books and media, but like I got discouraged very early on, scanning for an hour, all the books in the Goodwill aisle, and not really finding much. So I started on eBay, just flipping like clothing and video games and any other random stuff I could find from the thrift store sales. And then I slowly got into Amazon and like retail arbitrage. And that was kind of like a grind in the beginning, because like when I started, this was probably back in 2016, there wasn't a lot of like, videos or courses or groups where you could kind of learn, from. It was literally your trial and error. Like you didn't even know what a keep a chart was back then. So you'd literally go scan, and if it looked profitable on the Amazon app, I would just buy it and send it in, so it was like a lot. It was like in the beginning, it was just like you would find one hot item, and then you would go around to all the stores looking for that one item. Like, it was like very slow starting, mixed, thrifting and stuff like that. But thankfully, I found, the Green Room, Rake-In and Bonafide Hustlers group. So it was cool to find a community of people that were doing similar things. So I was able to learn a lot from them and make friends and connections. And I learned early on, like, how I was able to build my business is like networking and making friends. I was really like a very awkward weirdo, 5-6 years ago. I didn't know how to talk to people or like even make a conversation with people. So I started reading books on how to make friends and how to network. And I just jumped in full force with networking and into every single Amazon event that I could, or eBay event, or any like networking event that I could go to, and just started making friends all over the country, mixed in and starting to travel and making friends everywhere I went. And now I have a, good network of friends, and a lot of masterminds that I'm in where we trade, we share bolos and share leads and tips and stuff. So I use that to my advantage to learn how to do the business, is find other people that are doing similar things.
Yeah. So let's pause there. I know those comments are going to resonate well with a lot of people that are intimidated, or they jump in the Facebook group, and unfortunately, sometimes they'll post just an innocent question and people jump all over and like, use the search feature. And, we're all friendly, but sometimes unfortunately turns into a little bit of bro culture where we just kind of, push people away. So, I'll just apologize for our community. I try and be really welcoming, but I know that sometimes it can be intimidating. So for someone that, like you kind of said, you were a little bit awkward and that wasn't your forte, just to be social and talk to people. How did you said you read some books. What did you read? For anybody that's watching, that's like, hey, I resonate, I empathize with that. How could, like, give a few words of wisdom or just some practical tips for somebody that's on the outside that says, I want to make friends in this space? How do they do that?
For sure. Yeah, I will. I do want to touch on it too. The thing that I actually had the same issue when I first started. So I started reselling, eBay and stuff like that, probably 2008. So like I had another buddy that did eBay too. Just so me and him, we talked, and we did video games. We'd buy them on Craigslist and sell them on eBay. And after a few years of doing that, I think around 2016, right before I started Amazon, I had never even thought to think that other people did this kind of business. So like I was like, I'm gonna go on like YouTube and Facebook, and I found some free Amazon Facebook groups, and it blew me away. I never thought in a million years that other people did this too, and so I joined all these free Facebook groups, and I started asking questions. Very innocent. I didn't mean anything by it, and I got destroyed by people. I mean, I wish I could remember those people's names now, like to see where they're at, but like they shitted on me so bad. Not everybody, but just the few people that stuck out, and they made me feel like crap. And I was like, I'm gonna learn this business. Like it motivated me so hard. I was like, I'm gonna learn this business, and I'm gonna help as many people as I can. And I'm gonna, and like my goal was just to crush those guys, and any, not personally, but like show off and like be successful at this, because I was like, that is no way to treat people. And like, I want to help people. I'm not going to let people crap on me, and I'm not going to crap on others, because we all started at zero at one point. I don't care if you're Amazon lit and you're selling 300, 200 million a year or whatever, like everybody started at zero. And it's like, we are no better than anybody. So like that really motivated me. We'll get back to, so like I said, I was super awkward. I went to like my first green room meetup in 2016, I think. And I sat in the corner and I talked to like the people I talked to on the Facebook group. And I was so scared to even talk to anybody. I ended up, this is when I started my little, growth, self-development journey. I came across a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People, which today is still one of my favorite books of all time. And I still read this book three times a year. I still read this book. I still go back and just refresh and like make sure I don't ever fall off the path of that's how, you should be interacting with people, and like that. And this is the thing I think a lot of us probably are, guilty of, is that like, as humans, we naturally want to talk about ourselves. Not like we don't mean anything rude or like we're better, nothing like that. It's just naturally what we enjoy doing. And like, that part of the book stuck out to me. It's like, oh my gosh, I do that. Like, that's what I'm guilty of. I never take the chance to get to know other people. And it was like, there's a quote in the book that says, you can make more friends in 2 months being interested in what they're doing than you can in 2 years by telling everybody what you're doing, something along those lines. And so I learned, to like ask questions and listen, and like learn to where I could help people or provide some sort of value to them before I start bombarding them with like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? Can you give me a bolo? What can I do here? Like, I want to benefit you. I want my goals, and I don't, and if something good comes to me later, that's awesome. If not, that's good. And that's kind of what I took that perspective early on, of meeting people and making friends. And thankfully, it helped me make a lot of friends, over the years. And to me, that's more beneficial than making money in this business for sure.
Well, and the friends usually lead to making money. One of the principles of life I've discovered is, if your goal, let's say, is like whatever the direct thing is, I want to make a lot of money. If you just try and do that and ignore other things, you might get there. But usually there's a circuitous, some kind of a route that'll get you there. And it's not the direct course. It's not just go try and make money. It is like build relationships, do the right thing, treat people right. And ultimately you do those things. Not only do you have a better quality of life, but often you get to that goal in a much better way than you ever imagined.
Yes,
and that's
100%.
That shows up. So it shows up in relationships. It shows up in business. It shows up everywhere. And I love those principles of life where it's like, well, it's not the most direct route, but it does work out.
Yes.
One of the things, and you do a good job of it, is like, again, just being interested in the other person. I call it seeing the other person. Like, to see somebody is to love them, is to care about them, and just to be curious. I've got a 4-year-old son, and I think the biggest thing he's taught me is just to be curious. As we get older, we tend not to be excited about things because we go, I already know that. I know how this works. Versus his name's Elliot, and he'll just look at things and go, wow, that's the coolest thing ever. And he's genuinely curious. And it's just beautiful to watch. And I go, wait a second, why can't I be that guy? Why can't I be that curious? And I think the more curious you are about somebody else, and everybody's got something about them that sets them apart. Something that they know better than anybody, something that they're, intimately curious about. And if you can just ask those questions and see where it leads, it's pretty sweet to see the end result there.
Amen. Yes.
So, okay, let's talk about emotions. There was a part, I don't know how much of your story you want to share, give the 30,000 foot overview, but you've come a long way. You're not just a straight laced business guy that's just always been successful. You've had your share of ups and downs. Do you want to share a little bit of your history and kind of what Amazon did for you and part of your journey of kind of getting back on your feet?
Yeah, definitely. My background pretty much, I live with a single mother, my mom. Grew up super broke, welfare, all that stuff. As I grew up, I worked dead-end jobs, typical, fast food, Arby's, White Castle type stuff. As I grew up, I got involved in, doing drugs, pain pills and stuff like that. And it pretty much ruined my life. Not pretty much, it did ruin my life. And that was a, crazy turmoil of, 4 or 5 years of just doing drugs and doing crazy stuff. And, pretty much losing everything, fired from my job, evicted from my apartment, sleeping on, people's couches, stealing from them, breaking into houses and stuff like that. And eventually, after 4 times in rehab, I got sober. But after I got sober, I was still, that same mess, just sober. I started playing World of Warcraft after, around then, and I pretty much just played World of Warcraft for like 3 years in my basement, basically, just being just a loser, eating junk food, not going outside, would play for 12, 13 hours at a time and barely go outside and just be in my basement. And all my friends were online, which cool thing is like playing that game, it really taught me a lot. It actually helped me a lot in my Amazon business too, which was super, all this stuff that just happened ended up helping me become who I am today and in my business today, which has been amazing. But at the time, was just a loser pretty much. When I tried to find a job, I got sick of just sitting at home all day playing games and not, doing anything with my life. So went back out to join the workforce again. I was applying, for manager type jobs, server jobs, waiter jobs and stuff like that. And nobody would hire me. I couldn't get anywhere. I tried for probably, a year and a half, 2 years, applying at tons of different places. Would get tons of interviews. Nobody would call me back. During this time, I started eating, just small stuff, a couple video games here and there. I, started applying at like Target, stocking shelves, Walmart to push carts. I'd get interviews. Some places would give me 2 interviews and not call me back. Over that couple of years of trying to apply for jobs, like, you feel like crap, no disrespect to anyone that works at Walmart, but I mean, if you shop there, they hire almost anybody, and it's like that made me feel really crappy about myself. I couldn't get a job at Walmart. Like I go into Walmart and like the people can't even count your change properly. Like they have like a coach helping them how to count your change back, but it's like, you couldn't hire me to push a cart. Like, that like really hit me. So like, sent me more into just depressive, just loser state of mind. And I ended up moving to Nashville, Tennessee. And same thing, applying jobs there, same time doing eBay. My last job that I applied for was at the fossil store in Opry Mills Mall. And thankfully, they never hired me. And after I had 2 interviews there and I didn't get hired, I'm just like, I am worthless. Like I have to find another way to make life work and make money, because I clearly am worthless when it comes to finding a job anywhere. I'm unemployable. I have nothing to offer. Pretty much I felt like a loser. I was a loser, I felt. So thankfully I was doing eBay and kind of growing that while I was doing that, just as to pay for food and, bills and stuff. I found Amazon and slowly got into that. Thankfully I stuck with that, with all the ups and downs of doing that, and started Amazon with a couple $100 and kind of just grinded for that for a few years, tons of ups and downs, dealing with toxic people, toxic issues with my family and relationships and mother and all that. And thankfully I stuck with Amazon, hang out with the RA, started doing the retail arbitrage road trips. And, fast forward today, like this year, I'm on pace to do, I should finish the year at about 1.5, 1.6 million in sales for 2022, all from nothing. So thank you guys.
A couple questions about that.
Yeah.
When you were kind of at your lowest moment, you were sitting on the couch playing video games. What was your aha or wake up moment that got you saying, "Hey, I'm going to start looking for a job"? Do you remember a certain day that you said enough is enough and it's time to change?
It was kind of over like a small, short period of time where it's just like you get sick of waking up every day, not even showering, just waking up, going straight to the computer, logging on, going into this like make-believe world to escape from your shitty real world, and just playing games with your online friends. And like, it just got sickening every day. I didn't even enjoy the game at the end. It was just like, I had built this life in the game. I spent so much time and effort building this up, and like, I didn't want to lose that, because I had spent 3 years building my in-life game, and building like, they have things called like guilds or like clubs. I built up a club of over 1,000 people. It was like my group. I owned it, and I didn't want to lose that. And like, and it was just like, but you're just like, I wouldn't shower for days at a time, just playing games morning to night, eating junk food, and I just got sick of it. I was so miserable. You just get sick and tired of being sick and tired, Yeah.
So it wasn't one thing. It was just kind of the steady building up where you finally said, enough is enough. It's time to change.
Yes.
So you got to the point, you said, it's time to change. I'm going to go be a contributing member of society and get a job. And you just kept getting shit on, frankly, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
At what point there did you kind of change your mind again and say, all right, this isn't working. It's time to just take matters into my own hands?
So through that whole stage, couple year period of trying to find a job, I was doing eBay, and like I was slowly growing the eBay as I went. I wasn't spending any money. I was cutting my own hair, like eating cans of tuna, 99-cent spaghetti. So I was like living very cheaply, so I could just rebuy all my inventory. Because like when I was, after doing eBay for a little while, I was probably making $200-300 a month profit. Thankfully, I had an amazing friend that lived in Nashville. He let me sleep on his floor for free for the first few months. And so I had no bills, just my food. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't even have car insurance. I'm driving around, thrifting and stuff, and I don't even have car insurance, and thankfully, it just worked out. I got lucky and not having any, I got, lucky and just worked hard. And after doing that for like a year, like, I built it up to where I'm making, $800-900 a month profit while I'm trying to find a job. And it's like, after that fossil store, issue or whatever, my last job I applied for, I was making around $1,000 a month profit there. And I'm like, I could really do this. Like it was that switch that was like, I could like, you can like, it never thought, like, I just thought it was just a part-time thing. It was enjoyable. I loved doing it. And I happened to make a few $100 a month from it, which was awesome. And I, when I got up to the point where I was making $800-900 a month, I'm just like, I could really do this. I could live off of this. Like, I don't need a lot of money to survive. Like, I could do this. Like, and I was pretty much like, F this. I'm not looking for a job. Like, I'm making $1,000 a month profit. Like, at this time, I think my rent was like $300 a month. I had, my friend had moved out of that room, and he let me stay in that room, and it was only $300 a month to rent that room. So I stayed myself, and I was like, I could do this. And I just like, I'm just going to grind this out and not even look for a job. I'm having fun. Like, this is great. I love thrifting and, sourcing at thrift shops and garage sales. This is the funnest job in the world. And, thankfully I stuck with that and, found Amazon, a little down the road, and, I stuck with it,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad all those stores turned you down, because that opened the door for you to do what you're doing, which is phenomenal.
Yes.
I like one of the pieces there is where you said, like, you crashed on a friend's, sofa, essentially. You kept your costs way down. I wouldn't recommend the no insurance play.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Expose you. But I love how you did it. One of our business partners, actually, before Matthew, one of our original business partners in ScoutIQ, actually was in Denver, moved his family, I think just his wife. I don't even know if he had kids yet, but they moved to the middle of nowhere, Missouri. All stories today lead back to Missouri, but he moved to Missouri just to cut costs. Denver was expensive. They said, you know what? I want to take a risk. They were going to start, coding ScoutIQ. We didn't know if that would take off or be successful or anything. We are successful. We have sweatshirts. So, we made it. We've clearly made it. Matthew's got the beautiful hat. I know you got one of those in Vegas as well, Jamison. But he did the same thing. He cut his costs way back, moved to the middle of nowhere, kind of took a step backwards. Society tells you it's always forward, bigger and better, more. And he made the decision to step back, and that allowed him to basically take some risks that he might not have otherwise made. And he was able to build another business on the side, which he sold, which is, we're super excited for him. And ScoutIQ continues to, usually it grows. But that's been something really fun to kind of see him take that step back. And hearing your story, I'm just reminded of that principle. So the idea is wherever you're at, if you can always eat ramen noodles for a set period of time. It's not great. It's not super healthy. But if you care enough, and that's one of the things when someone hits rock bottom, they're willing to do whatever it takes. And I would not stand between a man or a woman that's hit rock bottom and starts to have goals, because they're going to do whatever it takes. They're hungry. They're going to be hustling and working hard. So you did eBay for a bit. When did you kind of branch into Amazon? How long ago was that? And what kind of drove you to check out Amazon?
So I was doing, eBay, on and off all that through that time. I think I first heard about Amazon FBA in like 2016. I heard about it in a Facebook group, and I kind of I Googled that, and it was like, sell on Amazon or whatever. And it was like $40 a month. And I was like, this is dumb. Like one, I couldn't afford to pay $40 a month. And two, I'm not paying $40 a month to sell on your freaking, you're dumb. I hate it. I was just I was so against that. This is dumb. I'm not paying to sell on your website. And so I kind of put it in the back burner, still doing eBay. And I think, a few months had passed. More people are talking about it in the Facebook groups. And I'm just like, oh man, okay. I was like, whatever. All right, let's try this.
There might be something to this. Let's see.
Yeah, and I paid $4, and it, it killed me to have to spend $40, at that time for that. And I paid, and I think, I was like, all right, I'll try it. I'll have started with a couple $100. I was shopping at DisneyStore.com, buying little plushies, and I was, and then I started going and I remember I think around this time, the show Paw Patrol might have just came out around then, I believe. And they had I don't know if they had just released new characters but some plush toys came out from Paw Patrol. Rocky and the guy who drives the recycling truck or whatever. There was 2 plushes. They were like $10 in the store, and they were selling for like $30-$40 each. So I found out about this right out early on, and I was running around to every single Target. I would drive, 30-40 minutes to Targets just looking for these 2 plushes. If you were lucky, you'd get one of each at each store or none, And so I was driving around finding all the plushes I could, and I was merchant fulfilling them. Boom. And then I was selling them, making $10 or whatever profit per thing. And I thought it was so cool. I spent all day driving around, and it's I made more money than I would have at a minimum wage job. And, I loved the hunt. I loved, searching for stuff. And at the time, I'd never really thought of scanning all the other stuff. I was just going for 1 or 2 items. And then I wanted to get better at it. So I would literally, since I had no job, I had, nothing to do. I would literally take a notebook, 50-cent notebook and a pen, and I would literally go down a toy aisle of Walmart or Target, and I would scan every single, I wouldn't skip one toy. I would scan every single toy on all the aisles, go down the entire toy section. There were some days I would spend 5-6 hours in one toy section, going up and down all the aisles, scanning every single toy. And I didn't know how to do spreadsheets or computers or get all fancy with it back then. So I would literally write in my notebook, okay, this item's $2 profit today. Okay, let's scan it next time you're at the store. Okay, this is a good item. I would make my BOLO list of all the good items, and I would make a list of all the potential items to check next time. And I just kept doing that, where I would scan, tens of thousands of items. And then I started to learn what wasn't good. So then I would go to the stores, again, and I would see 1 or 2 new items. So then I would just scan the items. And then I kind of learned after doing that, trial and error, figuring out what's good, what people want, what's going to sell, what's rare for all the kids shows, kids movies, the rare character, limited edition, Target or Walmart exclusive. And I kind of learned doing that, just trial and error, scanning tons of toys and kind of just, grinding it out that way. And, thankfully after doing that for 6 months of, it started to click and make sense. And then it got fun. And then I started to learn you could actually make a living doing something like this.
Yeah, that's wild. It's fun hearing people's journeys in terms of where they, how they come into the ecosystem. I like that you started with eBay and then kind of networked and built friends, and then opened up, the gates to everything you're doing today. So you said you're going to do about 1.6 million this year. Did you hit 1 million last year as well?
Yeah, I think I did like 1.0 something last year, I believe, something like that, or 1.1 or somewhere around there.
60% growth is really, really remarkable in a year. Is it just you? Do you have employees? Do you have anybody that lists for you, or is it just 100% hustle and Jamison's manpower?
I did take on a prep center, I think 2 years ago. So, I do, they do the majority. They do probably 90% of my OA. And then I do all my RA and I do some of my OA. So they do definitely help a ton, being able to ship. They can get out more volume than I can. So it's pretty much me and then my prep center, pretty much handling everything.
Awesome.
Is one of your goals to outsource the physical RA, or do you enjoy that? So is that why you're keeping that part for yourself?
I really enjoy the RA, honestly. Like I don't think I'll ever stop doing it. It's like I have all my friends will call, like I went and did RA. Like RA in Vegas is very crappy in my opinion. I went out, yesterday, and I shopped for like 8-9 hours, and I think I spent maybe $1,500, which is to snap, but I loved it. I had a great time. Like I loved doing it. And then I came home and did did OA for 5 minutes, and I spent 2 G's in 4 minutes, So like,
Yep.
Obviously you can see, like if the more profitable side of doing is OA, because you can spend a lot more in a lot less time. But I love doing RA. Like I would rather have done the RA yesterday than the OA. I mean, I'm glad I was able to do both. But the RA is just what's a part of the business that I love. I'll never, give that up. If I couldn't do RA, I don't even know if I would I wouldn't love Amazon as much.
Yep. It's insane. There's a lot of ways to run the business. That's the cool part of being in Vegas was, it's primarily booksellers, but there's every flavor of business you can imagine, from retail to online.
Yes.
To like you can do, like Rakin talked about, eBay to Amazon arbitrage. There's so many opportunities out there. Amazon's just such a big space, and so much volume goes through them. It's fascinating to see what picks up.
Absolutely.
Well, Jamison, there's a lot of newbies that watch the show, a lot of experienced sellers as well. To the newbies that are sitting there going, man, I wish I had those opportunities, back in 2016, 2015 to get started, but I didn't know about Amazon or eBay. They're still sitting on the fence. What would you say to them in terms of, like, what are the best steps in terms of getting started? Because maybe that $39 a month scares them for getting started on Amazon. So where would you recommend someone get started today in late 2022?
I mean, if they have no reselling experience, I would definitely recommend eBay for sure. I don't think, eBay and Amazon definitely are completely different, but like at least I feel everybody should have some sort of knowledge of eBay just to kind of get an idea of how reselling works, because like Amazon is obviously a lot more strict terms of service, different rules. Like they're very more professional on the side of how you're supposed to run a business. And if you just jump right into Amazon, like you might make a lot of mistakes. You could potentially get in trouble, get kicked off. For me, thankfully I did eBay first to kind of get a rough idea of how to work with customers, how to ship stuff on a timely manner, how to ship and everything like that. So eBay is definitely where I'd recommend starting. And Amazon's definitely not impossible. I would say Amazon this year has probably been the most challenging. We have, definitely the most competition. So I would definitely, thankfully though, there are a lot of softwares and a lot of groups and stuff you can join, where you can get access to high level people and like learn a lot faster. So the learning curve's a lot shorter and a lot easier this time around. And I would honestly start with what you enjoy. You can make money in every area of Amazon: books, media, retail, wholesale. Like I would start with anything that you might enjoy. Like if you enjoy reading and you enjoy books, like start with books. If you're a toy collector or a video gamer, maybe start with there. Because I feel like you'll put a lot more work into something that you have at least a little bit of knowledge or passion about, So like that's where I would recommend starting. Start small with that one area, learn, figure out if you can make money in that area of Amazon or eBay. And then if that works, go all in on that. And then if not, try different areas. But like start with one thing. Don't spread a huge giant net right away. I think I would start narrow and small especially if you're just doing it part-time and like, you're working full-time, I would probably stick with a very small area and kind of get knowledgeable in that area, join groups, and, get the right software that, could help you learn and make it easier, watch the right YouTubers, Instagrammers and stuff like that, ask questions and learn, and, jump into what you think you might be good at.
Yeah, I echo that. I think niching down and just figuring out one thing. Matthew and I joke, and it's not even a joke at this point. You can make money doing anything. Legal, illegal, you name it. There's a way to make money or monetize any passion. So that's fun to see. But I think the best thing is just figure out how to get that first dollar. Get that aha moment of, whoa, this works. And once you get that, success begets success, and that leads you down the path to go find the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we could try other stuff. I love hearing stories of people that do non-books. I'm still in the book world. The business is where I want it to be. I'm happy with it. It provides for a couple team members. I've got a nice little cute little warehouse here in Warsaw, Indiana, and it's great. I love the software. I love being able to connect with this community. Vegas was awesome. We had a dinner the night before the conference, and we joked about, not even joked, we thought about calling it the ScoutIQ reunion instead of a summit. And then we're like, well, some people might have bad experiences with family reunions and stress and all that. So we said, nah, let's nix the reunion phrase. But it felt like a reunion. We got around there. There was probably 40-ish people that showed up for dinner. And we had like 2 long tables set up, and we were eating tacos and bouncing around and chit-chatting with everybody. And it just felt like a reunion. It was so good to have like the Amazon family, if you want to call it that. It was awesome. And then the conference, I think 56 people showed up. And I just remember like just, interviewing, like hearing your story, interviewing Michael Fortinall, Romer shared, Rakin shared, just everything there. And the conversations at lunch. I was like, man, I'm so happy to be part of this community. So we really enjoyed it. We're looking forward to hopefully doing 2 more next year, one East Coast, one West Coast. We'll see how those shake out. But, yeah. So anybody that's on the fence, if you get a chance, they're fairly inexpensive conferences. I think we lost a couple grand on it, but that's fine. The point wasn't to make money. Flights were expensive. Vegas had some, I think, a NASCAR event or something going on. It was not cheap to get out there. Excuse me. So you're fortunate you live local. We'll take some questions here. And any last comments you want to say? Like what does next year look like for you? You went from just over 1 million, so probably 1.5, 1.6 this year. What are your goals for next year, or do you kind of wait to get through Christmas before you work on that?
Definitely want to get through Christmas. I'm definitely going to try my best to change and adapt, because me personally, like with RA and Vegas, it was very tough for me this year. Like it's like we're on a different planet. It's not good like other competition or anything like that. It's just like we just don't have access to the stuff that I like to source, and it's a grind out here. I miss having more access to stores, so I think I may be moving to the East Coast next year. Okay. Kind of pinpointing a few locations where the RA opportunities are better. I really miss Jersey. I think if you live in Jersey, Connecticut, New York area, I think you have the best area for sourcing in the entire world. You can get to so many states so fast.
Well, if we see Connecticut populations increase, we're going to blame you.
Yeah. So yeah. If you live in those areas and you're having trouble making it in Amazon, like you're just not trying hard enough, because you have access to thousands of stores in like a 5-hour radius of Connecticut and New Jersey. You can get to so many Targets, Walmarts, thrift stores, whatever you're looking for. So I'm kind of pointing on moving and just kind of get back into RA and growing the RA next year. So I'm going to just kind of go through Christmas, sell through as much inventory as I can and take advantage of this velocity. I'm definitely going to, last year I did a lot of Amazon to Amazon flips that just didn't work out, even though the data on Keepa and everything looked flawless. Prior years, Amazon was in stock a lot longer and stuff. And this shortage stuff, clearly all the stuff I bought, there was no shortage on. So, going to just sell down bad inventory, good inventory, and kind of like reassess in the beginning of the year. And then, my lease is up in the next few months here, take a look at setting, going down across the other end of the country and, get back into the RA some more for sure.
Perfect. It'll be fun to follow along, and hope to have you share even more success stories next year at the ScoutIQ Summit.
Always, yes, always open to it. Let's go.
Well, we're gonna pivot here. We've got one last segment. If you guys and gals do have questions, drop those below. We'll have just a couple minutes for Q&A. If Jamison, if you're up for sticking around a little bit.
Of course. Yeah. No rush.
I've got a question real fast if we have a second.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so one of the common threads we've seen through all these interviews of people who have been successful on Amazon is that relationship building that you talked about. You mentioned a few times you have some good people that call you when there's liquidation events that you might be interested in. Did you start building those relationships back when you decided networking was important to you, or how did you kind of go about building up those relationships to help with that side of the business? Because I'm assuming it helps significantly to have that there.
Yeah, definitely. Pretty much during when like Toys R Us was closing and like other stores. I think right around that time, I don't know if you guys heard of Shopco. It's kind of like a Midwest like grocery store / Walmart kind of store. Those were closing and stuff like that. I would literally, and then the last few years, all the Kmart's closed. So anytime I would go into a closing store, I would just go in, I would load up my cart. I want to, show proof that like, hey, I'm serious. I'm a serious buyer. I'll go in, I'll load up my one to, few carts. And then I would, as I was, going to pay, I would be like, oh, hey, is the manager around? And I, kind of like, I wouldn't say like, here, look at my carts. I'd be like, hey, I'm a bulk buyer. I just wanted to let, see, do you guys know when the next discount's coming in? Do you know when other inventory is coming in? I have an online store. I'm looking to buy more inventory if we can help each other out. And I would give him my business card. And if the manager isn't around, or if he was, I would be like, oh, by the way, it's the liquidator. So basically somebody's in charge of the liquidations. They're in charge of anywhere from, 5 to 15 stores or something like that. So they may or may not even be at that location. They can be 15 stores across 5 states, but usually you can find the liquidator at one of those stores. And every time I go in, I just ask if the liquidator was around, at least, show my face, introduce myself, give my business card, let them know what I do. Because they want to get rid of it. The liquidators want to sell the inventory down. They generally at the end, I'm not sure how the leases work, but generally if they're on a month-to-month lease, they don't want to pay that extra $10,000 or $15,000 on the next month's, rent. So they want to get rid of that inventory before they're having to pay the rent and all the bills and everything. So they want to try to get rid of stuff. So I've had a lot of success making deals with them where somebody can get better discounts or access to better inventory from other stores. They'll call the other stores and like say, hey, we have XYZ at these stores, do you want to take a trip out? I've made deals on the phone buying stuff. Back when the Hibbett store was closing, I had met the liquidator. I was in there scanning. Guy came up to me, he was like, hey, are you one of those Amazon guys? And I was like, yeah. He's like, yeah, I'm the liquidator. I'm in charge of, these. He gave me more locations that I didn't know about. And then he called me the next day and was like, hey, I've got, 200. I don't know if you've heard of the shoe Brooks. It's like a running shoe. He's like, hey, I've got 200 Brooks shoes. He's like, I'll give them to you, $20 a pop. And I kind of started looking at Brooks shoes online. I'm like, whoa, a lot of these are going $100. I didn't see the shoes. I'm like, sold. And I drove right out there to show them that I drove like 8 hours to the store, got a U-Haul, drove straight there without even looking at them. But I was like, for $20, worst case scenario, if the good condition boxes are bad, I could sell them on eBay for $40 to $60, worst case. So I was like, and that's how I made one of my connections. One, I jumped in right away, showed him I was serious. And then to this day, that guy will still let me know when stores are closing. And this was 4 or 5 years ago. So just get in there and ask questions, have business cards handy, and just try to make connections with those liquidators in those stores if you can, or the managers. And like if they see you're serious, they definitely want to sell inventory, and that can help you down the road. I've had liquidators that I didn't even reach out, and they were like, oh, so-and-so gave me your card. Someone I didn't even hear. They're like, hey, we've got 4 stores in, Raleigh, North Carolina closing. Boom. Next day I was on a plane and I flew out there and got like a free deal out of someone I never even met or never even knew, because my info got passed along. So like that's kind of how I made my connections. And always, when you do go into these stores, be nice to everybody. Care how, if the employees are rude, if the managers are rude, be nice to everybody, no matter what. Like, even if they're rude, and one thing that's also helped me too is that every time I go into these stores, every time the employees and managers talk to the liquidators, they're like, Jamison was so helpful. He was super nice. He gave us gift cards. He bought us pizza. He bought us coffee. And if they're extra helpful, I always carry Starbucks gift cards anywhere from, the last liquidation I did, I gave the manager $300, Target gift cards. And she started bawling and she was like, oh my gosh, personally, she was having a hard time, which I didn't know, but she's like, this will help me so much. And cause she was a rock star. She gave me a ladder and was like, let me climb on the back shelves and dig in boxes boxes and stuff. I was back there for like 12 hours digging in their back room, and like she just gave me a big old ladder and a box cutter, and I was back there, and like she was super helpful. So like I took care of her, and always like pay it forward. Give $5, $10, $100 gift card if they're making you money and helping you. Like pay it forward to them, and that's helped me too because the liquidators always call me. And the liquidators that I work with, they also work with other resellers, but they call me first because they know I'm going to be the nicest and that I'm going to be cool with everybody. And everybody has nothing nice things to say. So they always call me first. So sorry, I went on a little rant, but that's kind of how you can make connections in a liquidation is find closing stores by you and just start asking questions and, making connections.
I love that. That's awesome.
Pretty solid. All right. Well, while we wait for some questions come in, we got a nice little payout. Thanks, Frank. It's very generous of you.
I know, very generous. Thank you.
Should have charged more for our tickets, but appreciate the tip. So if you guys do have questions, go ahead and drop those below. We will get to the last segment here in the meantime, which is the geek out moment, or what are you excited about? What are you learning lately? I'll go first. One, I just kind of resurrected my love of cycling. I got my bike back out, dusted it off, put some air in the tires, and it's fall right now. We're getting like 70-degree days. There's leaves on the ground. The sun is shining when it's not raining, and it's just beautiful. We've got some really world-class biking trails in our small town. They're mountain bike trails. I don't have a mountain bike, so I have like a hybrid, which is more like a road bike. And I just took that yesterday and kind of biked around town, and then just parked it. It's a safe area. I love small towns. I just left it at the top of the trail, and no one's going to steal it. And just went like for a walk in the woods and looked at the stream and threw some rocks in. And it was just beautiful to be outside. It just does something to you. So I really enjoyed that. I need to go rent or borrow a mountain bike and enjoy the trails before winter sets in. So that's what I've been geeking out over, just getting back out in nature. Bonfire season, bourbon season. I know, Matthew, you've got, are you making brisket? I know you're smoking something today.
Ooh. Yeah, ribs for tonight.
Ribs. Well,
so yeah, they're out there right now. Hopefully the smoker's still going.
Save a few for me. I'll be right over. So that's what I'm geeking out over. Matthew, what are you curious about lately?
Yeah. So, this is something I mentioned a while ago. A while ago, I mentioned that for my son, I started reading him one of Jocko Willink's books, the Warrior Kid series. He read all 4 of those with me. I read them to him. He's 5 years old. And he absolutely loved those, but those were done, and he hadn't published a book for a while. And so Truett had asked me if there's anything else like that, and we tried a few other books, and he just wasn't into them the same way because they weren't written as well as Jocko wrote his kids' book. Truett just loved those, my son Truett. And so anyways, the other day I figured out that he had a Warrior Kid podcast, and I take Truett to school 2 to 3 days a week. So I was like, instead of just like listening to random music or stuff like that, let's put on a podcast for him for Warrior Kid. So I turned on the Warrior Kid podcast, and he was like super focused listening to it the entire ride. I did that for a few times. And the other day he came home. He's like, Mom, guess what? I listen to podcasts now. And he was just super excited about his podcast. And he always does like question and answers from kids across the country. Then he does like a little applicable story at the end of it. And so it's just a cool way I learn things from them, but it's a cool way to have him in the car, and he genuinely enjoys listening to it, and he gets something from it for each time. So if you're stuck in the car with your kids for a while, it doesn't have to be just music or silence or just casual things. You can actually do some educational things too, and he's loved that. So that's been a fun thing to do with him for the last week or two. I've enjoyed that.
It's awesome. I'm gonna have to get Elliot on the Jocko train here.
What about you, Jamison? What have you been geeking out about, interested in?
I've actually been doing some pretty cool, company stuff. So I work with a coach, like a growth coach, mentor, life coach, whatever you want to call it. And basically, like after I came back from my trip to New York, I finished my 2021 taxes. We did the ScoutIQ events, and I'm growing. I'm working on my business, working on my personal life, and growing. And like I've and things I'm still working on. Like I've had like just a lot of crazy traumas happen. So like it's like I sometimes self-sabotage when things are going really good. I'll do something completely stupid to like ruin it. And so One thing I had my call with my coach last week, and he was like, we were talking about everything that happened and going on in my life. And he was like, every time you seem to grow, you seem to do something to knock yourself down a few pegs, like subconsciously. And so he had challenged me. He was like, okay, this next 2 weeks, I want you to focus on your inner child. He was like, do the things you used to do when you were a kid, when you had no care in the world, and just do things that you really enjoy. Don't attach anything to being an adult to it. All stuff that you used to do when you were a kid, things that were enjoyable, and move aside all your adult BS and just everything you're dealing with. And so like this last couple of weeks, I started doing just stuff I had loved doing as a kid. Like I was like on YouTube for a few hours this week, watching like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Guts and like all the old Nickelodeon shows. And like I collect like Legos, like brand new Lego sets in the box. And I opened up a couple Lego sets and like was building Legos. And like I even freaking went to McDonald's and ordered the Halloween like Happy Meal. And like I was just doing all like kid stuff I used to do as a kid that it was kind of bring me back to being grateful of just being alive, and like, kind of like help me focus, even though we're growing and we're moving forward as adults, to never lose your inner child, no matter what. You should always find, like kind of what Caleb was saying, I was kids curious about everything. Like we should never lose being a child, even though we're adults and we're growing and doing adult things, like we should still have that fun and enjoyment and excitement. And so my last couple of weeks has just been doing like little fun, silly things like that. So I've been having a lot of fun, doing, I was reading Goosebumps books and like just having fun doing that stuff this last couple of weeks.
That's beautiful. I love it. Cool. Well, Matthew, any questions? We'll kind of wind things down in
yeah, there are some questions here. So here, I'll throw up some of these for you, Jamison. So do you use any be on the lookout lists, lead lists, anything like that, or groups you're in particular for retail arbitrage?
Yeah, I've tried a bunch of groups that weren't very successful. I've done a lot of leads groups, a lot of leads lists, people sell spreadsheets and bolos and stuff where it just haven't worked out. So I'm in a couple, I'm in two different groups now. One, it's the guy, I don't know if you guys heard of the book Toyfolio, Greg. He runs a WhatsApp group. Basically, it's like kind of like a higher level kind of thing where they focus on like long-term hold toys, and stuff like that, and kind of teach you how to grow that side. Because that's like the side of the business that is most curious to me, is that I want to learn how to treat toys as an investment, almost like stocks or stuff like that. So like that kind of focuses on that. So that's a paid group that I'm in, where we do fast flips and we're talking about things to sell now, but it's really focused towards like the long-term hold side of things, and like finding things really low, holding them for XYZ time, and then figuring out what profit you can project and stuff like that. So that's one of my groups that I'm in. And then also too is a flip team, which is just like a Discord group where we're doing a lot of different online arbitrage, Amazon to Amazon flips and stuff like that. So those are my main two groups that I focus on right now.
Awesome. Junkman wants to know, did you have exercise and a diet change to get you out of your slump when you said you're kind of trapped in doing video games, not doing anything? How did you have anything else besides Amazon that got you out of that?
Yes, it was, changing my diet and health. During this whole thing, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of the documentary. It's called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. It's still on Netflix to this day. Basically, like this guy, super overweight, on a bunch of pills, just super successful financially, but like just a miserable, just unhealthy, giant overweight, pimples, just very unhealthy person on tons of medication. And he documented his journey. He basically did, I think, like a 60-day juice fast of where you're eating all just kale and greens. And basically over that 60 days, he lost a ton of weight. His face cleared up. He got off like pretty much all the medications he was on. And that was kind of like my first like aha kind of thing. Like, wow, that he got off all these, like, because when I was younger, I was diagnosed with manic depression and bipolar, and I used to be on all these crazy, lithium and Seroquel, all these medications for that. And the medications made me feel 10 times worse. Like they didn't help at all. And I always wanted to find another way to like be able to deal with that stuff. And I started juicing, and exercising, and I lost weight doing it, but like I still juice. I juice today. I spent an hour juicing, 10 juices for the week, and I still juice to this day. And that has probably been my biggest like health thing that I've done to like help me, be healthy inside and out, think mentally, be clear. And I'm on no like, medication for any of that stuff now. I've been on that stuff for 10 years now. And thankfully, I think juicing is the main reason why I don't have to take that kind of stuff. And I'm super healthy and mentally focused more than I've ever been because of it. So, yeah.
What are you juicing? Just vegetables, or do you have like a certain regimen that you follow?
Yep, I do. I juice twice a day. My morning juice generally consists of like an apple, beets, carrots, ginger, and lemon. Kind of my morning juice, and then my afternoon juice I'll actually have when we jump off this call. It's kale, celery, cucumber, spinach, and apple. So it's like more greens and stuff like that. And then the morning one is a little bit more sugary because that kind of gives you like your energy, your boost, and so I do those twice a day. And then in the morning, I'll usually do a ginger shot also. I'll do a shot of ginger just to get my day started.
Yep, that's awesome.
Nice. Well, Amanda has a question. We covered this a little bit earlier, but what do you do with the inventory you purchase on the road?
I ship everything from the road. From pretty much from my hotel or Airbnb. I basically turn it into a warehouse and everything gets shipped from the road.
Awesome. Let me see if there's any other main questions that were back up here. I'm going to scroll back up a little bit. Here you go. Do you have any daily profit goals per RA trip? And if so, what are they?
Not necessarily, because like being on the road, the RA days are so sporadic. Like I could go and shop all day and maybe spend a few $100 to $1,000 if I'm just in a bad area of stores and they just don't work out. And then some days I have like are crazy. The nice thing about road trips is that say you're in a random city or state, if things aren't working out, you can easily change your direction and go another direction and find. So like overall, like my trips do very well. It's just like daily, it's hard to put a number on how much profit like. Ideally, I want to make $500 a day, or more, because like now with prices being a little bit higher, like hotel, gas, food, like it's it costs me roughly $200 to $300 a day just to live on the road with hotel, food, and gas and everything. So ideally, like 500 is my minimum just to survive on the road. So obviously anything more than that, then that's where I can start making money.
Yeah. Nice. Well, that was the main bit of questions that we had for right here. So,
well, with that,
awesome.
We will conclude episode 27 as we keep approaching number 28 and 30. I don't know about any other big numbers. I mean, 30 feels substantial. 26 is pretty good. At this point, I think we're just midlife crisis until we approach 50.
50 or 100 are the next big ones. And it's just weird if you celebrate 30, 50,
yeah.
40.
I mean, we can celebrate all the little things along the way. There's no reason not to. So
absolutely.
Jamison, thanks for being here. We appreciate your time. Thanks for sharing.
Of course, thanks for having me, fellas. Appreciate you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jamison. It's always inspirational to hear your story and to hear stories of people like you. I'm sure, like I think we talked about this at the event, but I'm sure there's a lot of other people that have similar stories to you that just have never had the confidence to share it like you have, and they could impact a lot of lives. And so I love that you made the effort to share your story and share all of it and just be so open with it. I think that's probably, I know it's inspired a lot of people. So thank you for doing that.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely. And for those that are I see someone just jumped in and missed the show. We are available on YouTube. You can search Books and Bourbon and just all the past episodes will pop up, as well as you can look us up on any of the major podcast platforms, including, I believe, Google Podcasts. And I know for sure we're on Spotify. So Matthew, thanks for your work in chopping those up. If you guys want to follow Jamison on Instagram at Jamison Philippi. I never know how to say your last name. Say it. Sorry, I was talking over top.
Jamison Philippi.
Could have worked that into the show notes prior. My bad. Well, on that note, as we just disrespected your last name, thanks for joining us. And we will catch everybody next week. Have a good night, everybody.
See you, everyone.
Peace, guys. Thank you.